Some of the most underrated yet necessary skill sets that you as a neurodivergent person can learn, practice, and integrate in your life is to simply ask yourself the question, do I actually feel bad about myself right now? This especially applies if you are autistic, because the social norms that we abide by are so antithetical to the way that we may naturally socialize or process. This is why I think it's so important when you are unlearning your own internalized ableism, when you are trying to actually put in the work in building a life that's meant for your neurodivergence, to ask ourselves if we actually genuinely feel bad about ourselves, or if this is a social construct that you were taught, picked up on, and hold yourself accountable to. Because I'm a very visual learner, I'm a very visual person, something that I like to practice is to, in moments where you feel bad about yourself, almost identify that coding and whether or not that coding is yours. Does that make sense? I hope any of my, coders in here or techies know what I'm talking about, or computer people. At the very least, I'm sure some of you were around during the MySpace days and you were coding what your layout looked like and whatnot. But in moments where, let's say, you feel bad about a social interaction, you feel bad about your social life, you feel bad about something that you did, said, or something about your life, instead of going through the normal responses, which is to kind of sulk, beat yourself up. Everyone has different responses, right? Some people might throw themselves into their comfort things, and it's this very hedonistic sort of escapism. Some people might continue to punish themselves because they felt bad, and now they won't let themselves enjoy anything else throughout their day because they don't deserve to, because they're a bad person. Wherever on the spectrum you may lie in terms of how you personally take out your shame on yourself, it's important to actually look underneath that layer and ask yourself, am I actually enjoying myself right now? Am I actually okay with this part of myself? And this shame that I carry, this feeling bad for myself, is that me actually feeling bad about myself, or is that all of the moments where someone has made me feel bad about myself in the past? I think a therapeutic tool that people use is called internal family systems. It's kind of similar to this concept where it's really useful to identify the voices in your head instead of just equating the voice to yourself, right? Because sometimes you may find that that voice that's always so hard on yourself, that's always beating yourself up, isn't actually you. You don't actually feel that way about yourself. It's, for example, your father who has always put you down throughout your life. And even if he's not around anymore and you guys don't really talk, you continue that voice again and again, even if he's not around. And that's the craziness of the human experience, is how trainable we are. We are honestly like animals. We train ourselves behaviorally to get used to certain things happening to us. We train ourselves to even have certain thought patterns where if you trained yourself enough, or if you've been trained by others enough, even long after that person is gone or that situation is over and done with, you will continue to live that story again and again. And that's why I really, really do think the path to actually living a life more sustainably and actually healing, loving yourself, is by identifying those behavior patterns that keep you down. Actively break those patterns down and give yourself the opportunity to practice a new behavior pattern. This is a skill set that we unfortunately abandon in adulthood because we're just tired, and we're also just taught to not learn things for actual self-improvement and for actual fun. We're taught that learning has to be directly equated to some sort of monetary gain. So when we can't identify that monetary gain, like a job or career, what's the point of learning then? We're putting all this work into learning something and implementing it for what? You know, especially when you're neurodivergent and you're already working against a lot of the systems, or the systems are working against you. The last thing you want to do is put in work. But part of living a sustainable life is really going in and taking inventory of whether your lifestyle suits you, whether your thought patterns support you and help you navigate your life effectively. I feel like for the past decade, I've gone through so many moments where I'm beating myself up. In this moment where I feel bad about myself, where I dislike myself, where I hate myself, do I actually hate this aspect of me? Or is this an external expectation that I've just grown used to because people outside of me have been indoctrinating me into these expectations for my whole life? If I am a homebody and I find myself spending a lot of my downtime just in my own company, do I actually feel bad about how little I'm socializing with others? Or is that shame that I've taken on from other people? Because once you dig underneath that layer, right, and you actually dig into yourself, you will often find that these things that you feel ashamed of are actually aspects of you and your preferences that you don't have issues with. And if anything, if you allowed yourself to actually embrace these aspects of yourself positively, even just neutrally, you would go on living life with less pushback against yourself because you get to just exist without constantly feeling like you're doing existence wrong. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes after digging in, you will find that there's aspects of that shame that rings true to you. But I do think that that process is a lot easier to navigate when you understand that this isn't a shame based in you being wrong necessarily, but it's just your own value system coming in and holding you accountable. I think that's the difference between just beating yourself up and holding yourself accountable. Sometimes that shame you're feeling is your own value system, your own consciousness checking in with you and saying, hey, I don't feel right about this thing, so let's do something about that. But either way, I feel like as a neurodivergent person, you truly do lose touch with your own internal compass when you can't identify what actually is just you, and that's just a neutral, positive thing, and what aspects of you want to work on. If everything you say and do is something you're ashamed of, you will lose touch with your own value system, your own purpose, your own choices, because you will want to fix everything about yourself, regardless of if that's actually wrong, regardless of if that's actually something that would positively impact you. It's like, I don't care, I just need to fix it because I'm wrong. We can't live like that. We need a good idea of, these are things I enjoy about myself. These are things that are just me, and that's not good or bad. It's just in certain situations, it may be negative. Certain situations, it may be good. To certain people, they would hate it. To certain people, they would love it. But these are neutral things. And then there's a list of things that you would want to work on. Because, I mean, we're not perfect, right? I'm not here to positively reinforce everyone in a very delusional way. I want us to have a good grasp of everything about ourselves, the good, the bad, and the neutral. And I oftentimes find that neurodivergent folks don't have a good grasp on themselves. It's just all negative. I'm not necessarily here to tell you to just like love yourself and you're amazing, right? But just be practical, if anything. Let's work up to the self-love. Maybe self-love is a very unattainable thing for you right now and for a long time. I understand you. I get it, right? That self-love is hard to get to. So in the meantime, the next step might just look like having a more practical and realistic view of yourself, right? not just seeing all the bad, not just trying to trick yourself into thinking you're amazing and you're lovable, but just have a better grasp of, okay, these are bad things that I want to work on. And maybe from this list, there's some things that I don't actually feel bad about, but I can move that to the neutral list. Maybe I can't bring myself to love these things, but I could at least accept that these things aren't bad and I feel neutral about it. Maybe someday I could move some of the things from the neutral list to the positive list. You see where I'm getting at with this? But other than that, you guys, the next time you find yourself feeling that initial wave of shame, in those moments of pause where you find yourself settling into a feeling of discomfort, like you're doing something wrong and you feel bad about yourself for some reason, I want you to dig in deeper. Underneath that layer of initial shame, ask yourself, do I actually feel bad about me, what I'm doing, what I'm saying? Or is this something I've learned from others? And do I want to continue my own suffering over this one thing that wasn't even a part of my existence until someone else copy and pasted that code into my system? You have the power to select those codes that don't belong to you and delete it. You just do. You may have to do it multiple times. That's how behaviors work, right? You don't just select it and delete it and you're over it. You wake up the next day and you never struggle with those thoughts again. It's going to be a consistent thing where every time you feel the shame, you identify that external code that doesn't belong to you, you select it, you delete it, you get over that moment until the next time that shame reappears, and then you identify the code again, and you're like, okay, you're back. Let me select you and delete you again. Just keep going on with that process. Trust me, when you're consistent with it, it will. That's how behaviors work. It will get easier. You teaching yourself something new might feel unfamiliar, might feel like nothing, like you don't even get any positive things from it. But as you keep going with it, as you're consistent with it, you will start to reap the benefits of it more and more. You deserve to be consistent with yourself in that way, right? You really do. Don't be afraid to identify those external codes that you don't need anymore, that don't serve you outside of making you feel bad about yourself, that aren't even realistically helping you do anything. Identify it, select it, delete it. With that being said, you guys, make sure you stay regulated and drink some water. Right now, let me see you take a sip. That's right. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.